הלילה ברצועת עזה העברנו הילוך. צה"ל תופס שטחים.
תושבי עזה, בקרוב יפעל צה"ל בעוצמה באזורים נוספים בעזה, ואתם תידרשו להתפנות למען הגנתכם מתוך אזורי הלחימה. התוכניות כבר מוכנות ומאושרות. החמאס מסכן את חייכם ויגרום לכם לאבד את בתיכם ועוד ועוד שטח שיצורף למערך ההגנה הישראלי.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have officially announced what we've all expected, honestly, for months now. Israel's intention to ethnically cleanse parts of the Gaza Strip, likely the entirety of the Gaza Strip, in order to take control of the land for security purposes. You know, they haven't been eyeing that land for literally decades, right? Okay. So in his statement on Wednesday, Katz said that Israel was renewing and expanding military operations in the Gaza Strip to crush and cleanse the area of terrorists and terrorist infrastructure and seize large areas that will be annexed to the security zones of the state of Israel. The minister said that a large-scale evacuation of the Gazan population from the fighting areas is accompanying the expanded military campaign in the Strip. Now, Katz also continued the Israeli government's, in my opinion, faux concern over the hostages that remain in the Gaza Strip. And I say faux concern because how are you gonna argue you're concerned about the well-being of the hostages when you've been bombing the crap out of the Gaza Strip, when your own forces killed hostages themselves, barely even apologized for it? Do we even know the fate of those IDF soldiers who killed the Israeli hostages, who actually managed to escape, were shirtless and were asking for help? Anyway, yeah, but they're worried about the hostages. I'm sure Katz is up all night worried about them. Anyway, he says, I'm worried, faux concern. I call on the residents of Gaza to act now to eliminate Hamas and return all the kidnapped. This is the only way to end the war. By the way, we're talking about Hamas, which is awful, and what they did on October 7th was awful. But let's also just acknowledge once more that we're talking about Israel that is backed by the largest and most powerful military power in the world, the United States. Hamas ain't got no military. They don't have the weapon capability that Israel has. They don't have the defense capacity that Israel has. But the way that the Israeli forces and the Israeli government talk about Hamas, you would think, oh my God, that is, a formidable opponent. Let me continue. So Katz's statement did not make clear how much land Israel intends to seize or exactly how they intend to seize it. I'm going to predict that ultimately they intend to seize all of it through brutal military force, ethnic cleansing, and the slaughtering of a ton of people. Tens of thousands of civilians, women, children, elderly people, civilian men of fighting age who are not part of Hamas, they've been slaughtered. Medics have been tossed into shallow mass graves. Children have been targeted by Israeli snipers, showing up to hospitals with gunshot wounds in their heads. According to American doctors, by the way, who have risked their lives to provide some humanitarian relief on the ground in Gaza. And evacuation orders have already been issued, demanding Gazans living around Rafah, which, by the way, we all know where Rafah is, right? Rafah is close to the Gaza border with Egypt. So why are they evacuating Rafah? That's interesting. Interesting security zone, okay. So they're going to now evacuate Rafah, which is again near the border with Egypt, and Khan Yunis to move to areas closer to the shore. We're gonna push them out into the ocean. But let's keep it real, Israel does intend to take control over all of that land. I think they've been pretty obvious about it. Katz last month announced the creation of a new directorate within the Israeli Ministry of Defense to facilitate the voluntary immigration Out of Strip, the directorate's work aligns with US President Donald Trump's suggestion that Palestinians be resettled outside of Gaza, Katz said in February. Now, where do they go? I mean, no country is willing to absorb Palestinian refugees, partly because they just don't want refugees, but also partly because they don't want to aid and abet the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians by the Israeli government. So far, according to the Israeli rights group Gisha, Israel has already taken control of some 62 square kilometers, or around 17% of the total area of Gaza, as part of a buffer zone around the edges of the enclave. But there is critical infrastructure that Gazans live in and rely on in the so-called buffer zone, and that includes wells, sewage pumping stations, wastewater treatment facilities, and also a significant chunk of Gaza's agricultural land. So losing access to those resources will make it even more difficult for Palestinians who are having a difficult time surviving to continue surviving if this war comes to an end and they manage to make it out alive. So here's one Gaza resident's reaction to Israel announcing their plan to take control of yet more land in the Strip.
توسيع عملية ايش بده يعمل فينا اكثر من هيك، ما ضلش له الا يرمي قنبله نوويه على قطاع غزه ويريح السكان، لا في اكل ولا في شرب وطخ وموت، ويبدو انه نتنياهو ماضي في حربه على قطاع غزه ليهجرنا، لكن احنا رغم الاباده اللي بتصير فينا والمعاناه الشديده وكمواطن نزحت 8 مرات باذن الله الا نضل صابرين وصامدين في ارضنا ولن نهاجر. صح بنهاجر نزوح داخلي داخل قطاع، الواحد لسه داخل وطنه بشوف قرايبه بشوف اهله، لكن ان شاء الله نزوح خارجي لن ننزح وسنبقى صامدين على هذه الارض.
Yeah, it's just, you see the images on the ground. It's just absolutely brutal and intentionally so. It's meant to be unlivable. The aerial bombardments, the destruction of infrastructure, the destruction of hospitals, universities, refugee camps, residential buildings, that's all intentional. So when Trump talks about, no one wants to live there, the Gazans don't want to live there. I mean, it's unlivable. Yeah, it is unlivable. On purpose. It was made unlivable with the bombs that we American taxpayers are funding on behalf of the Israeli government so they can drop them, on the heads of these Palestinian people, destroy everything they have. It's just hilarious, right? To point to the awful situation on the ground that we aided and abetted, and then use that as the justification for the ethnic cleansing that is to come. So the hostage families, God bless them. I feel so terrible for them because their own government doesn't care about the hostages, clearly. They've been protesting, they've been demanding that the war come to an end, to no avail. So the families of the remaining Israeli hostages are furious about Katz's plan, saying the government is prioritizing territorial gains over getting the 24 living hostages home safe. So I'm not the only one saying it. The family members of the hostages are saying that this is all about territorial gains. Take a look.
Families of hostages here released a statement saying they were horrified by what he had said and asking whether a decision had been made to sacrifice the Israeli hostages on the altar of gaining land. So he has since issued a new statement saying no, that the purpose of taking these lands is to press Hamas into releasing the hostages. We have to mention that this tactic has never functioned. Not a single Israeli hostage of the 251 hostages taken on October 7th, 2023 were ever released as a result of this sort of military pressure.
And Hamas is making clear military pressure isn't gonna work. The only way you're gonna get these living hostages back is if we negotiate a peace deal. But Israel doesn't want a peace deal. They don't care about the hostages, they want the land. Let's call a spade a spade. I'm not here to, caress the BS of any side here. The Israeli government's been lying from the very beginning. And what they've actually wanted to do has been very clear. They've been very brazen about it from the very beginning. They don't care about the hostages. I can't imagine engaging in the kind of warfare the IDF has engaged in, knowing that the hostages are there and they are suffering the same way the Palestinian people are suffering. They never cared about the hostages from the very beginning. Let's stop pretending, please. It's insulting. It's insulting to the intelligence of everyone paying attention to this story, and it's insulting to the family members who have had to bear the absolute torture of knowing their own government doesn't give a damn about their family members. That's the reality of the situation. Netanyahu is a really bad guy. It's hard for me to think of anyone on the international stage that I despise more than Netanyahu. He's an evil person who has fostered a lot of bad will against the Israeli people because he's a selfish prick. He's a corrupt, disgusting, authoritarian prick. And we fund him.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.